Or not good afternoon, good evening. Let me go ahead and share. Okay, give me 1 second, y'all. 1 second, 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I actually wasn't supposed to go live because I didn't think there was so many. Ooh, Lord. Daggone updates. 1 second, y'all. I didn't think they would have so many daggone updates so soon, but I guess that's a good thing that it got a lot of these updates and whatever. So, with that being said, let's start with the main update. It's on Rob Reiner's son, Nick. Let's start with him, shall we? Start with Nick. This damn thing ain't trying to stay up. Damn it. There we go. Start with Nick. And we're gonna go into this other stuff. Shout out to Long Crime. The son Rob Reiner was in court, and here what was said according to Law and Crime.
The town was engulfed in flames.
Let me see you bleed! How's that?
In court for the first time, facing 2 charges of first-degree murder, Nick Reiner stood out of sight before a judge. He's accused of killing his parents. Hollywood titan Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle were found dead inside their mansion on Sunday, hours after an A-list holiday party allegedly turned heated for the Reiner family. Not only are we showing you what happened in court today, but we also have some newly released images of Nick Reiner at an LA gas station after he allegedly killed his own parents. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Hey guys, real quick, I want to talk about one of the major sponsors of On the Case, one of the most watched shows on all of YouTube, and it's America's largest personal injury law firm, Morgan & Morgan. This is a firm of more than 1,000 attorneys who have recovered $25 billion from more than 500,000 clients. In the past few months alone, a client in Florida received $12 million when insurance offered just $350,000. In Pennsylvania, a client was awarded $26 million. That is 40 times the insurer's offer. Morgan & Morgan makes it easy to fight for what you deserve. You can even start a claim from your phone. So if you're injured, you can start a claim at forthepeople.com/OTC. You can click the link below or scan the QR code on your screen. Before I get into what happened in court today with Nick Reiner making his first court appearance, I do want to show you this new video. This is reportedly Nick Reiner at a gas station near the campus of the University of Southern California on Sunday. This is in the area of Exposition Park, and this was shortly before he was arrested by LAPD. NBC Los Angeles was the first outlet to get this video, and you can see Reiner's wearing a jacket and a hat. He has a red backpack, and it appears that he buys a Gatorade, and then he walks across the street, and that is when LAPD vehicles pull up, lights flashing, and they put him under arrest. Nick Reiner's arrest happened roughly 15 miles from where his parents' bodies were found. Now you can see on this map the distance from the Brentwood neighborhood of LA to Exposition Park. We're also getting more of a timeline now, reportedly, of what Nick Reiner allegedly did after the murders. Now before we get to that timeline, I want to break down for you what we know about the crime scene inside a home where Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner lived for more than 3 decades. Nick's parents, again, a Hollywood director of legendary films, Rob Reiner, and then Michelle Singer Reiner, who was a photographer. The two of them actually met on the set of When Harry Met Sally, one of Rob's most famous movies. They were found dead in their home in the Brentwood neighborhood Sunday afternoon around 3:30 Pacific time. It was reportedly Reiner's adult daughter who found the couple. The New York Times reports that she was contacted by a massage therapist who couldn't get into the home on Sunday, so she called the family for help. And the report states that the daughter saw her dad's body, and then she ran from the home, and at that time, she did not know that her mom was also dead inside the house. Police confirmed that the alleged murder weapon was a knife, but at this point it's still unclear if police believe that they have the murder weapon that was allegedly used in these murders. It's also unclear if the killer brought the knife with them or whether it was a knife that was already inside the home. Now, Nick Reiner, the suspect, the 32-year-old son of Rob and Michelle, was not home when police arrived. TMZ reports that the Reiners' throats were slit. People magazine said the adult daughter said that Nick should be a suspect in the murders because he's, quote, dangerous. Nick was arrested outside of that gas station. That was around 9:15 Sunday night, so little less than 6 hours after his parents' bodies were found. Now, we don't know how he got 15 miles inland from his parents' house, but there are reports out there that he actually went to a hotel in the early morning hours of Sunday. TMZ says that Nick checked into a hotel in Santa Monica around 4 o'clock Sunday morning. The hotel is the Pierside Santa Monica Hotel. It's a little more than 4 miles from his parents' house. TMZ says that staff at that hotel, they made a disturbing discovery after Nick left the room. Staff discovered in the room the shower, other parts of the room covered in blood. There were also reportedly bed sheets covering the windows. TMZ says that Nick used a credit card to check into that hotel room around 4 o'clock in the morning. Remember, it was almost the entire day until his parents' bodies were found around 3:30 in the afternoon. TMZ also says that there are witnesses who describe Nick looking, quote, tweaked out. The outlet says there were also no signs at that point that he had been in a violent confrontation. Police say they have yet to officially determine the time of death for Rob and Michelle Reiner, and they say that's because they're still waiting on information from the coroner. But if the reporting from TMZ is correct, that means that Nick entered this hotel room just hours after he left a star-studded holiday party that was hosted by Conan O'Brien on Saturday night. This is a party where TMZ was the first to report that there was some sort of loud argument between Nick Reiner and his dad at this party. And now we're learning more about what that fight was about.
Hey, it's Sharzad. I am so excited. I'm off to my Botox cosmetic consultation. I booked an appointment with Dr. Yo.
More about what that fight was about, and we're learning reportedly what was going on at this party that had people very concerned about the way that Nick was acting. Not only was Nick reportedly described by some people the night at that party as, quote, tweaked out, people also described him as acting erratic. And they've said that he was wandering around this party at Conan O'Brien's house and he was interrupting conversations with celebrities. The Hollywood Reporter put out just a very shocking article about how Nick was reportedly acting at this party. They said that he was going up to people at the party, demanding to know who they were and demanding to know if they were famous. The Hollywood Reporter then goes on to say that Nick was reportedly acting so odd that some people wondered if he was someone who had wandered in off the street. He wasn't officially invited, but apparently Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner, they didn't want him to be alone. They had grown concerned about his substance abuse. So they asked Conan if it was okay for their son to come to this party. Now, here's another part of this Hollywood Reporter story that really paints a picture for just how awkward and concerning Nick's behavior was at this party. He allegedly, again, was asking people if they were famous. One of the people he did this to was former SNL star Bill Hader, reportedly. The article says, quote, Hader calmly responded to Nick that he was engaged in a private conversation. This is according to someone with knowledge of the situation. Nick glared at him for what felt like an uncomfortable amount of time, end quote. So again, this really paints kind of the picture of how Nick was acting in the hours surrounding the time that his parents were killed. Now, the loud argument that Nick and his dad had that made headlines through TMZ, that was allegedly over just how rude and bizarre Nick was acting at Conan's party. Now, before we get back to the timeline of the party, what happened reportedly after the party, and then what they did in court today, I want to make sure that you understand Nick's background, who he is, and the challenges and issues that he has had going back years.
Hey, what's up?
There he is, Nick Reiner.
So this is a podcast we found, a podcast called Dopey, which focuses on the issue of addiction and how people struggle and fight their issues of addiction. And Nick, years ago, had been a guest on multiple episodes of this podcast. The one that we found was from 7 years ago on YouTube. And Nick is on the show, and he's talking with the host. posts about his history of addiction. Now, Nick has been public about his battle with addiction. He told people in 2016 that he first went to rehab when he was just 15 years old, that he had been to rehab more than a dozen times in his life, and he also said that he spent time homeless across multiple states, homeless in New Jersey, Maine, and Texas. On the podcast that we listened to, Dopey, Reiner talked about how he found himself during times of sobriety longing to move back to Los Angeles and to get back to his old lifestyle. Listen.
What ended your sober run?
I don't know. I just didn't want to be away from home, and I just wanted to come back home.
But you also wanted to get back to smoking weed and whatever. I'm not judging you, Nick. I'm just like the show. Like there's a billion or there's thousands.
You know what it really was?
What?
You know what it really was? It was like I knew that I wanted to relapse. Basically, I didn't even want to call it a relapse. I just wanted to get back to my old life of like smoking weed, kind of taking some pills, like doing whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I started to do it back in Maine, I wouldn't really be able to do it.
On another episode, Nick talked about how he lived in his parents' guest house, and then they tried to kick him out of the guest house. This was back in 2018, and he said that put him into a drug-fueled rage, and he trashed the place. So that also helps you understand the dynamic of a family that had been trying to help their son. It appears they never gave up on their son, and just the challenge that I know a lot of families can say that they've dealt with when it comes to addiction. That was certainly something that appears to have been happening in the Reiner home. It also appears that Rob and Michelle, in trying to help their son, they really did everything they could. This is a very sad picture. We found Nick's Facebook page. It appears he hadn't posted since 2018. And this is a picture of Nick with his dad. Rob actually, as this legendary director behind movies like A Few Good Men and When Harry Met Sally, it appears he tried to help his son's career too. Nick wrote a movie that would not be as successful as the ones that his dad put together, throughout his entire career. It was called Being Charlie, has a 6.2 rating on IMDb, and Nick wrote this movie about a man who struggled with addiction and homelessness, and his dad directed that film. Multiple outlets, including TMZ, have said that the Reiners in recent months that they had grown more concerned with the way that Nick was acting, his mental health, and his issues of substance use. TMZ said when Nick checked into that Santa Monica hotel, again, he looked, quote, tweaked out. There are friends that are also speaking out about Nick, saying that they were growing concerned with his behavior. One friend telling the New York Post that he seemed like a, quote, ticking time bomb. With that said, so many people are still shocked that his issues would get to the point where he would be charged with killing his parents. Now, on Tuesday, the LAPD announced charges that Nick is now facing. The LA District Attorney said the death penalty is not off the table for Nick if he's found guilty, but the last time that California put someone to death was all the way back in 2006. There's been a moratorium on the death penalty under Governor Gavin Newsom since 2019. And that leads to today. For the first time, Nick appeared in court. His attorney is Alan Jackson, a major name in criminal defense, the same Alan Jackson who defended Karen Reed in the case where she was accused of killing her Boston police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe. Now, Nick had not appeared in court since his arrest because he was still in the process of getting medically cleared to do so, but today, he was in court, though he appeared out of the sight of cameras for a very brief court hearing. It felt like less than 45 seconds. CNN had a reporter in the courtroom who described Nick as sitting calmly in an enclosed area wearing a thick blue one-piece vest. Now, these are typically called suicide vests.
What if you've been approaching dating all wrong? Maybe you've put yourself out there, but nothing clicks.
Thick blue one-piece vests. Now, these are typically called suicide vests. Law enforcement puts them on people who they keep a close eye on. The judge ruled before the hearing that media members could not take pictures of Nick Reiner. The only words that Nick said in court were, quote, "Yes, Your Honor." And that's when he confirmed that he was waiving his right to a speedy trial. This is all according to the CNN reporter. Alan Jackson did speak briefly to reporters, and there were a ton of cameras outside the courthouse. This is what he said after the hearing.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I just have a couple of quick words. First of all, and most importantly, this is a devastating tragedy that has befallen the Reiner family. We all recognize that. Our hearts go out to the entire Reiner family. There are very, very complex and serious issues that are associated with this case. These need to be thoroughly, but very carefully dealt with and examined and looked at and analyzed. And we ask that process you allow the system to move forward in the way that it was designed to move forward. Not with a rush to judgment, not with jumping to conclusions, but with restraint and with dignity and with the respect that this system and this process deserves and that the family deserves. So with that, we are set for January 7th for an arraignment. That's the next court date. And that's all I have to say at this point. There may be more at some other point, but today we're going to rest on where we stand procedurally, which is this was a continuance of arraignment. Nothing happened today substantively. We'll be back for an arraignment in the same department on the 7th of January. We'll see you then.
Join us now to talk more about this is civil rights attorney Joe Richardson. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime. This story is just not a lot happening in court today, but just the details, the reporting surrounding it. It's just incredibly tragic. I want to talk about the charges that Nick Reiner is facing. And the DA, when he announced the charges, he did say the death penalty was on the table. Now, in some states, state like Texas, probably a little bit more of a real possibility for someone than what it is in California right now. How does that factor into things specifically in California?
Right. So the death penalty is technically still someone can be prosecuted with and when there's a special circumstance that could lead to the death penalty or life without penalty, life without possibility of parole. However, the governor, Governor Newsom, put a moratorium on the death penalty in 2019. So lately, nobody's been, administered. No one has had the death penalty administered on them, even though technically speaking, you can still go down that road. Whether that person would ever end up being subject to the death penalty in real life, particularly given it takes a long time to get all the way to the finish line. You have automatic appeals and things like that anyway. It's a separate question. But special circumstances are still very much in play, and he could be prosecuted as if he could get the death penalty, and that could be his sentence. Separate thing, whether it actually happens.
So if someone receives the death penalty and they're going to be in prison for the rest of their life, you're kind of in the hands of the political system, and who knows, like a decade from now, if the shift when it comes to how people view the death penalty in California, let's just say it goes very pro-death penalty, we would be subject to that.
Not today, but hopefully over the weekend I'll get around to it.
Yeah, and not to get political, but everybody knows Newsom's running for president, and in some ways, he probably wants to be politically a little bit more hardcore. I don't know if that gets all the way over to him potentially undoing his moratorium, expressing an openness. The people that are running for governor now, there's a sheriff in Riverside County, et cetera. There's some pro-death penalty type folks as well. So the fortunes could change depending on who the governor actually is. But it is up to political whims and political will and some of those types of things. So yeah, it would be very much up in the air.
Shop the holiday exclusive gear at Pokemon Center, the official Pokemon online.
And when they talk about the special circumstances,
I saw that earlier today. in the process of me getting updates on this other stuff, I was also watching Fanny making a complete fool out of herself. Oh, I gotta do that either Saturday or Sunday. I gotta do it.
and when they talk about the special circumstances, the DA says that 2 charges facing Nick Reiner, 2 counts of first-degree murder, and then it's with special circumstances because there are multiple victims. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so any of a number of circumstances out of Penal Code Section 190.2 special circumstances can lead to basically an upgraded, harsher penalty, either life without the possibility of parole or the death penalty. In this case, what's being talked about is the fact that there were multiple victims. Multiple victims can be a special circumstance. Lying in wait can be a special circumstance. Someone that already had previous similar crimes could be a special circumstance. That wouldn't count
Right.
here. But even the manner of, they call it a special allegation, which I don't know, there's a whole lot of difference between, for our purposes, between special allegation and special circumstance of using the weapon, using the knife,
Right.
etc. Another special circumstance could be just the egregious nature of a killing. So there's 2 or 3 ways that his charge and therefore his punishment can be effectively upgraded, which means that there's more at stake for him.
And when we look at, and there's a lot that we don't know at this point. I mean, TMZ, and I'm sure for the district attorney, in Los Angeles, he's used to it, but it seems like there's just some outlets that get information and kind of paint the picture where people, have a little bit of an understanding about what maybe police think happened here. They aren't saying a lot publicly. We know it was a knife, according to police. They're not saying much more after that. When it comes to first-degree murder in California, the premeditation, what, I guess, typically is premeditation when we talk about murder, and how far, because you have this party at Conan's house the night before where clearly there was some sort of family issue, but then how does that potentially factor into what would be considered a plan that Nick Reiner allegedly had to kill his parents?
Well, so when you're talking about first-degree murder, you're talking about willful, premeditated,
Okay, Tim.
deliberate, with
I'm
malice,
probably gonna be here for
forethought.
another hour
And
or so.
that basically means that they thought of it ahead of time. Now, it doesn't have to be far ahead of time, okay? And so basically, this wasn't the result of, certainly not a self-defense situation, or a heat of the moment thing where somebody didn't think that they were doing it.
The way they died, it's impossible for the way they died and the details of how they died to be self-defense. It ain't no way you gonna try to play self-defense, man. Come on now.
Right away. It doesn't take, and that's the biggest irony here, the things that sometimes people don't understand. It doesn't take a long time to develop premeditation for purposes of the law. It doesn't have to be a party the previous day or the night of or whatever else. It could be a much shorter period of time. Now, here, what's going to be interesting, and we may be talking about this a bit more, is the whole idea that there was some concern about his substance abuse issues, maybe mental health issues too, if I recall. So the question is the extent to which that's going to affect how his state of mind is viewed to a trier fact. What's going to allow to be come into evidence, some of those types of things. And I would imagine that might be one of the battlegrounds on the defense side, depending on how good the evidence that they have is. Do they have a knife with DNA? Do they have, a lot of these other things that would truly point to him? And now he's got some explaining to do to downgrade from first degree to something else.
And I realized that, you can just do it. I guess I could just make a game because I saw this other person doing it. The hardest part is starting. The second hardest part is not getting discouraged.
We're shining a light on games we think deserve more love. Projects fueled by the same innovation.
Some explaining to do to downgrade from first degree to something else.
Yeah, and because the mental health part's interesting. I mean, there is no doubt that this is a person, and Nick Reiner, he's had issues when it comes to, he's been to, and by his own account in interviews he's given, rehab more than a dozen times. He went to rehab starting when he was 15 years old. Definitely had the resources to treat that addiction, more so than the average person would, just based off his parents. And the sad part of this, too, it seems like his parents never gave up on him up until the end. And we'll see how the legal process plays out. But typically, how does the legal system view some of those issues that may lead to the mental health struggles, and how that could, how does that impact his defense in kind of creating a sympathetic figure that this was a guy who was not in control when it allegedly happened?
My sense is it can affect him in the front door or the back door. The front door is pertaining to the charges himself. Based on what was happening with him in his mental state, can he develop the intent to do this? Were there other indicia, parents, I'm going to kill you, where he's clear, and those types of things. So that's kind of like, a front door defense. You use it to kind of help downgrade what it is you're being charged with. On the back end, let's say he does get convicted of first degree or whatever he gets convicted of. His mental health issues and addiction struggles may speak to some form of mitigation. May not be the word because he'd be in trouble and he'd be going to jail for a long time. But something to shed a light to make him a bit more sympathetic, to lessen the blow, as it were, depending on what the potential punishment may be that he's looking at. So my sense is it's absolutely going to come up. It's going to figure in probably both at the front door and at the back door. Based on the way that this thing happened, and we're very, very early in the game here, let's assume he gets convicted, and let's assume he gets convicted of something serious.
Most likely, he's going to be convicted of 2 counts of first degree unaliving.
It coming more into play related to sentencing.
And his attorney, it's someone, definitely if people watch Law and Crime, you know him because of the Karen Reed case, and then also Fraser Baum.
And here's the part that puzzles me. I know some of y'all may know, some of y'all may not know the name of Alan Jackson. If you're familiar with the Karen Reed case, you will know who Alan Jackson is. Alan Jackson was the one who actually got Michael Proctor off of the Karen Reed case. And last I checked, Michael Proctor is still trying to fight for his job back. But last I checked, it's not going successfully as he would want. Let's get back into this.
Who's a young man who allegedly killed 4 people with a car at Pepperdine. 4 young women, Alan Jackson defending him as well. But specifically with Karen Reed, he did such a good job of creating this almost alternative universe of what actually happened to John O'Keefe. In this case, there's not a car, but he's very good at what he does. What does he bring to the table when someone gets Alan Jackson as their defense attorney?
I think that he has a way of looking at cases that allows him to understand, here's the best we can hope for here, and let's go after that scenario. Admittedly, he may not have as much to work with as he did with Karen Reed. But he's going to have to put this in a light somehow.
How?
And, where he gets the first degree downgraded somehow to where he doesn't get life in prison without possibility of parole or the death penalty. Or he, through the back door on the back end, provides some perspective that lessens the blow, as it were. First step, though, is making sure that he's competent. I know he's been on suicide watch. They were trying to make sure he was medically cleared to even appear at the hearing, most recent hearing, etc. The first step is making sure he's competent to stand trial and some of those types of things. And I don't know whether Mr. Jackson is going to try to make that part of the defense to draw it out a bit. Sometimes when you're having competency hearings and things like that, it also is a way to run out the clock. I don't know if that's what he's looking at here, but it'll be interesting because, he's got a guy that, unless, lightning strikes, he's going to be in serious trouble, may well be convicted, etc. But Alan Jackson would seem to be the guy to put the best light on it possible. But we'll see how far he really goes here, given he just doesn't have the same facts to work with that he's had in some other cases. Given he just doesn't have the same facts to work with that he's had in some other cases.
Right.
When it comes to, and this is LA, this is Hollywood, the victim and Rob Reiner, one of the victims. He is Hollywood royalty for all the movies he directed and his time on, screen as an actor really in the 70s. But then you also just have the celebrities who were with them the night before at this party. Conan O'Brien, the story about Bill Hader, where there's just this awkward interaction. When it comes, and we're a long way from a trial and whether it even gets to that point, but I think of what the witness list could look like in this case, especially people. Typically when a witness list is put together, how far back would you go in thinking of these are people who interacted with the Reiners the night before and just what that could look like if we get to that point?
It seems like there would be some folks from that party, right? Some folks from that party in terms of their interaction, because the defendant's state of mind is going to be important, right? And there's some indications that he was in touch with other people. Apparently, he brought the family brought him because they were concerned about him being by himself. So that would figure in. And I think that maybe even in the sentencing phase, some issues surrounding his mental health issues, surrounding his addiction issues, would absolutely be in play. I don't know if he knows some of the other, the Hollywood folks that are about his age, or any of those types of things, or if there would be a matter of maybe some testimony of people that were in touch with the Reiners about what was going on with their son. But you certainly would foresee that there would be some folks that would testify, that would have something to say about his state of mind, either having witnessed it, having diagnosed it, or however that went.
Because we don't know, what happened inside the home. We actually don't know the exact time as of yet, according to police, of when they believe the Reiners lost their lives. But it would have been after that party, obviously. From a defense point of view, is there a way where you could say, this party, yeah, they had, somewhat of an argument at this party, that happened, but then there's something else that happened in the house that was completely unrelated. Like, is there a way almost to sever away what happened the night before and just focus on, so I think of like the alternative theory stuff that Alan Jackson can do, that something else happened inside the house that night that has nothing to do with what happened at Conan's house?
They can try, but if anybody can do it, it would be Alan Jackson. But I think it's going to be difficult because, among other things, the parents are going to be very sympathetic. So nobody's going to want to believe that after all of these years of putting their son in rehab and all of these other things happening, that they would do anything that would allow some perspective or shed some light on the circumstances surrounding the death in a way that lessens the blow on the defendant because of the victims. Okay? I don't think that will happen. Now, is there a way to show some perspective on the defendant because of his mental health issues and all of these other things in a way that doesn't shed negatively on the Reiners, the victims? Yeah, maybe so. But not, nobody's going to walk away from this thing going, well, I'm not saying he should have done it, but I understand given what the parents did. No, I don't think there's going to be anything like that at all. So we'll see if they can sever. And my sense is the more you talk about what happened in the house, the harder it is to sever, as it were, the heinousness of this crime and the related sympathy because of who he killed.
And today, very brief court appearance, no guilty or not guilty plea entered. What's the strategy behind that? I mean, this is something that happened very quickly, but to be able to get this continuance to January 7th, what does that tell you about the strategy, if anything, and what can we expect happens next?
There's so much that would go on here. No stone's going to be unturned. There's not going to be any resource issues here, which means that Alan Jackson is going to want to find out every piece of information he can, medical suitability and all of these other things. So this is happening kind of quickly. So it's probably mutually agreed that they would do a continuance. So that's not unusual at all, particularly in a case that's this high profile. I imagine this is not going to be the last continuance that you'll see, because everybody's going to need to do the things that they need to do to line up. Alan Jackson may have a certain amount of pressure on him because of what he does, but I think the DA is going to have all the much more pressure on them because of the nature of this crime, the fact that everybody's going to be watching. So they would probably want to take a little time to have their lines, their things lined up as well. So I think you'd see some mutually agreed to continuances, and everybody is just going to make sure they dot every I and cross every T, so that everything that can be done to ensure the result each side is looking for can be affected. And that's just going to take time because this is just a big case.
Yeah, that massive case, very much still at the beginning. Joe Richardson, civil rights attorney. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime. Thanks for being with us.
Good to see you, Chris. Thanks.
Again, this case will be back in court on January 7th. That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris.
Okay, that was it for the Rob Reiner update. There's an update on the Brown University shooting. With that being said, let's get it. This is NBC 10 WJAR. Let's get it.
Community at Brown are still feeling restless
Here we go.
and eager for an arrest, and we understand and share that feeling. We are also eager for an arrest. The investigation is well underway, and we'll hear an update in just a second from Colonel Perez and Attorney General Nerona.
You're right,
I want to reemphasize that in the Providence community and with the governor's help, really in the broader Providence community, we have tightened security and we have neighbors looking out for one another, and we will get through this. I know our city, and we are a resilient community, and we are a city that will support one another as we move forward in this scary time. Just because you're feeling unsafe doesn't mean that that's invalid. We know that that's real, but we are doing everything we can to both advance this investigation, but also to provide the support necessary as we move forward and take the first steps together that we need to as a city to start to recognize that kids need to go to school and people need to go to work, and we appreciate courage and sometimes even tentative steps forward that we're taking as we start to move forward as a community. At this time, I'd like to introduce Colonel Oscar Perez, who will give an update on the investigation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. We can please show the photo that we released earlier today. We have released this enhanced photo earlier today, and I want to be clear that this is a person that we would like to speak with. We truly believe, based on the video footage that we have been watching throughout a few days, that may have relevant information to the investigation. So we're asking the public that you can help us identify who this individual is, as well as the individual themselves sees their picture to please contact the police department. As far as one thing that I want to mention, I want to urge you, the public, not to rely on or circulate AI generated images that are currently being shared on social media, as they're not verified or credible. As well, the updates and information that you're getting will be provided exclusively through this department's official channels. I want to make sure that we make that happen, and please notify the public to make sure that that occurs. I would also like to clarify and show a map. Please complete the map. So the map here that you see is actually a map of the area that we have been intensively walking on those streets, canvassing the area. So as you see the blue image, yesterday I mentioned that we need the public's assistance to check your camera assistance or any sort of video that you may have that could be helpful to us, that you, as you're watching it or as you're reviewing it, you feel there may be something that we can use, please notify us. And if you need any help with that, viewing those videos, please also call us. We can come over and help you. The green area that's colored, that's when we have confirmed where the subject was prior to the shooting. The red areas, we have also confirmed that that's the immediate area where he left after the shooting. And so this is the map that actually we have so far. We've walked it all. We're still actively investigating, and we're still actively having agents, Providence police officers, members of the state police. There's about 9 federal agencies that are assisting us with this investigation, adding the state police as well as the Providence police and other municipalities. Again, I would like to reiterate, if you have any tips, please call the 272-3121 or the FBI link at fbi.gov/Brown University shooting. Thank you.
Welcome to the final episode of the Inspiration Lab with Amazon Ads and Business Insider. I'm Carly Zip, the Global Director of Brand Marketing for Amazon Ads. Throughout this series, we've been exploring how brands can meaningfully engage with consumers, whether it's creating memorable moments, inspiring action, or measuring impact. Today, I'm joined by a brand executive who has navigated these challenges and introduced innovative ways of thinking. So Jill, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me, as the CMO and CXO of a 70-year-old financial services brand, H&R Block, you have a unique ability and challenge to bring fresh, creative ideas to this dual role. How do you think about that?
For us at H&R Block, we really think about that experience through what we're actually.
Attorney General Peter Nerona for an update. Okay. Thank you, General. One additional update for me, and then we'll be happy to take your questions. First, I want to just take a moment to recognize and honor the memory of Ella Cook and Muhammad Aziz Umarzakov, who are the two deceased victims from this tragedy, and update you on the status of the survivors. Yesterday we mentioned that one individual had been discharged. I'm happy to report that another individual has been discharged today. That leaves one survivor in critical but stable condition and 5 in stable conditions. The parents that I spoke with today all reported that their kids were improving. So this is a happy announcement. But I know the entire Providence community, the entire state of Rhode Island, the governor and I were together at a memorial service last night, mourn the loss and offer our most sincere condolences to the cook and first following up on a note that the colonel made with respect to AI-generated images and other misinformation. We have created an online folder with all of the video and images that have been released. And we encourage both members of the press, but also members of the community. We know lots of people are sharing information, and we appreciate that. We think that will help with this investigation. But we encourage them to download and share the videos and photos from the website that has been created so that you can ensure that you're sharing an accurate and verified photo and video. That website is now live. It is providenceri.gov/tips, T-I-P-S. providenceri.gov/tips is an online file folder that has the videos and photos that have been released today as we progress. There's been lots of conversation up here about the heroic work of the hundreds of law enforcement professionals who remain hard at work 24 hours a day and who are in fact making progress. I want to close with one additional thank you tonight. All of those tip line calls are coming into the city's telecommunications department, the same folks who answer the 911 calls, and they too have been working tirelessly, and I want to thank the men and women at dispatch and at telecommunications for their diligence. Everyone in the city of Providence truly has a role to play in this investigation, and we're grateful for their assistance. We'll take your question. John.
I have a question for Colonel. As he's walking around, I want to establish actually, what's the earliest that this person of interest emerges? I believe you had said Saturday morning at 10:30, but then someone else said maybe a couple days earlier. And I recognize that it fluctuates and it's evolving. But as of right now, what's the earliest that this individual, to your knowledge, shows up on camera?
About 10:30 a.m. on the day of this tragic incident. However, like anything else, I also mentioned yesterday that they do case the areas. They do a lot of prior checking for their crime, and so we truly believe that it could be that possibly it was there prior as well. And so we want to make sure that we don't miss anything. And so that's why we're asking the public to help us to ensure within that map area that I mentioned, with the borders between Wicked, Brook, all those areas, Gano, that if you have a camera system to reach out to us.
I was in along High Street, Yano today. Tremendous number of federal officials literally going door to door. Would you say, how would you describe? I mean, it just seems that this is probably right now the most massive.
Definitely commend the men and women, obviously, and all our federal partners. It's a lot of work and it's intense, as you say. It takes a lot to be able to knock on doors, see videos, the terabytes of videos that you have to look, and I mentioned it yesterday. We're looking for a moment that takes almost less than a second. If you miss it, you're missing something that could be critical and important for us to use. And so yes, it's definitely intense, and I believe that it's probably the most intense investigation going on right now in this nation.
Colonel, the second person you want to talk to, can you drill down at all on any interactions that you believe you may have had with the main person of interest who you talked to? How close was he to him? Any interactions that you talked to?
So yeah, we have video footage of that determines to us and the detectives that can tell that this person was in the vicinity where the subject of interest was that we wanted that we actually have an interest on. Close enough that we feel that we need to speak with them to find out what because videos don't speak. If you think about it, I wish the video could speak, and then I'll have the answers that we need to, so that we can continue on this investigation. So we're trying to find out exactly what it is, and that's why we need to speak with them. Please.
Does this new individual have anything to do with why the person of interest is seen running in the surveillance footage?
Again, I wish the videos could speak. We're trying to get those answers.
And have you found any items of interest during your search, specifically clothing?
Nothing as we speak, no.
I'm back.
I'm Candace, and you're coming with me to my Botox cosmetic appointment.
Who among law enforcement or other first responders was first on the scene that day, and who came next?
Toronto University was on scene, and then immediately the Providence Police Department within minutes was there.
We released a video from 216 on the day of the shooting where we see the person of interest coming in contact or near another person. Is that the moment that you think this new person and the person of interest might have come close?
That's correct. It's around the area of Benevolent and Cook.
So behind the Rhode Island Historical Society, that corner of Georgia?
Right near that area, correct.
And you had some searches going on in North Attleboro today. Is that connected at all to this case?
I can confirm we're all over the place. If a tip comes in and he needs us to go down to Connecticut, we're going down to Connecticut. If a tip comes in and tells us that we got to go to Boston, we're going to Boston.
Is it possible that the second person could become a person of interest?
All we know is that that person was in the vicinity of the subject that we have an interest on, and we want to speak with them.
En español, si nos puede contar ustedes, esta persona es una persona que usa redes digitales que tiene de la comunidad.
Yes, so pretty much the question is just, we can explain in Spanish exactly why we're looking for this individual, why do we want to speak with them. So, esta persona verdaderamente es alguien que nosotros tenemos interés de hablar con ellos porque estaba en la área inmediata donde este individuo estaba. Entonces queremos saber más de por qué estaba ahí para explicar la razón y qué interacción hubo.
¿Tienen algún indicativo de que la persona que cometió el tiroteo actuó sola o actuó con alguien más?
Eso es lo que estamos investigando.
Have you found any DNA evidence from the crime scene or the area that you believe might belong to the shooter?
So we have found a lot of evidence that we need to use and utilize it to hopefully guide us in the right direction in order to identify the individual that we're looking for.
And you have the DNA evidence?
This actual physical evidence, this DNA evidence, there's a lot of evidence that we're collecting to ensure that we can find the answer.
A question for Attorney General Morano. My understanding from the conversations over the last few days is that the Attorney General's office is taking the lead in terms of doing the investigation. My question is, what's the relationship between the Attorney General's office and the Rhode Island State Police, who we haven't heard much from over the last few days, in terms of who's doing what and what type of thing? How do you follow up?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we're leading it. I think that we are working closely with our law enforcement investigators. So you divide, I think you can divide, in a case like this, the people involved in two groups. So there are at least five prosecutors that have been here since Saturday night. I've been here for a fair chunk of it myself. particularly after hours back at the office. But what those prosecutors are doing, Pat, is asking questions, helping to narrow and inform factual inquiries. Certainly when there's a question, all right, do we have enough to get a search warrant for a house or a car or a buckle swab from a person of interest? They're informing that. So in any complex investigation, both federally and stateside, prosecutors are embedded with the investigative team, and we bring our own heads to the investigation because we have been involved in writing search warrant affidavits and arrest warrant affidavits and wiretaps for years.
And the Rhode Island State Police, what kind of role have they played in terms of investigating?
Yeah, the Colonel can answer that, but before you do, Colonel, I just want to make sure that I answer it as well. One of the images that I have most keenly in my mind from a couple nights ago is a state police lieutenant or Derek Melfi talking to John Permiano of the Providence Police, talking to Colin Woods of the FBI and identifying a certain piece of video evidence that's important to this investigation. And that's how intertwined and cohesive it is while prosecutors look on and engage at the same time.
So I addressed this question a couple of days ago. So this is a very collaborative effort between all of law enforcement, between the Providence Police, the state police, all of our federal partners. We will continue to develop leads and follow that with the evidence that comes along with that until this perpetrator is apprehended. Thank you. And one quick follow-up. The gentleman from Brown University. Can you say for the record and with complete certainty that every bit of digital mass surveillance, whatever type of evidence was collected by the infrastructure of Brown University has been turned over to the Providence Police Department as well as the Attorney General's office? Is the Brown University withholding anything for the record?
For the record, we are cooperating 100% with law enforcement. We are turning over everything we have to assist in this investigation.
You have a map, if we are fully aware of whatever surveillance is being taken.
All materials are being provided to law enforcement.
Thank you very much. Regarding the new person of interest video, who may have had contact with the primary person? Does law enforcement not have the capability to identify someone who would have appropriate information without exposing them to public?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's something where you have to investigate. If you don't know who that person is, it's very difficult, and especially if the image is blurred, it's very difficult to identify him. And so if we had that...
Sorry, I'm off camera. I'm trying to multitask, y'all. I apologize.
At this point, we do not, and that's why we're putting it out to the public to assist us in identifying who this person is.
With this person of interest that you're looking at today, or the subject that you released today, are we sure it's a man? I know it was brought up in the Russian report that it could be a man, but are we 100% sure it's a man, or could it be a woman as well?
It's a person that we would like to at least speak with.
But, there's no giving a gender at this time?
No, there isn't.
Colonel, there's a black satchel that the main person of interest was carrying. Some images you see with it, some images you see without it. Have you recovered that black satchel? Do you know if he told us that he was wearing that stuff over his shoulder?
Yes, sir.
Was he wearing it before the shooting, after the shooting?
He's wearing it at times, definitely on and off, and I think I addressed that yesterday. Obviously, we see him on the video with it, and then at times we don't see him, just like you stated. So we're assuming that he actually hid it under the coat that he was wearing, but we don't have it, no.
Patrick.
Colonel Perez,
Yes.
the map that you showed, it looks like the perimeter has moved south into the Fox Point area from the immediate places where we've seen video footage. Can you tell me why the level of interest has moved south of the shooting site? Is there additional evidence that points towards that area?
I mean, the investigation is intensive, so we're following his path. And again, as the last place we saw him was right at Ives near Pittman. And so that's sort of south, and we're going to continue to check. But that's the last place that we saw him. That's why we moved south, and we may continue to move It all depends. We want to see as far as we can, how far we can go to identify it.
Are there any other sightings or anything else down by, I mean, that you've extended all the way to like Wickenden, or we don't have any?
Correct. We're at Ives and Pittman right now, but potentially could lead us further down. Further down. Could lead us further down south. So we just want to make sure we cover enough.
Steve, Colonel, can you now explain to us 5 days later how many students were in that classroom? Sadly, 2 lost their lives, 9 others injured. We're encouraged about the update today. But can you now say how many kids were in that classroom, and did the gunman come in from the back so these people never knew it was coming, or did he come in front with full view of everybody?
And that's all part of the interviews, and actually we're cooperating with Brown to get the roster. That was a study hold, so we don't have the number. We're still getting information as far as who was there. I know Brown sent out an email to the students to notify us if they were present, and we're still getting that, so I can't give you an exact account now.
Okay, and then just a follow-up. You did say that you lost sight of the gunman in some specific road outside of your perimeter. Right, and then what happened with him after that? There's no, you have no video of where he could have gone from there?
We're still out there as we speak. There's people out there, detectives out there, there's task force officers. We're trying to figure out what are the locations we can find, but we haven't found anything else. But we're knocking on doors and making sure, and that's why I'm putting out the call to the public to assist us. If you happen to be within that box, that borders exactly where we want you to look, then that's exactly why we're here.
Yeah. Inside the classroom, you've done your interviews, you continue to do your interviews. The description that eyewitnesses are giving, does it match the primary person of interest? And what can you say more about the weapon? We know that the TA said that he saw a gun that was so big and so long. Is it possible at this point that the gunman had multiple weapons? Can you swear that?
Yeah, there's definitely, the interviews are definitely telling us that that's the description that we had. And yes, they're describing the weapon. Some people obviously think it was chaos. And so we're definitely getting some info as far as what the weapon looked like and exactly what was going on in that room.
So we don't think there's multiple weapons?
No, just that individual.
I just want to jump in here too, because you know, you mentioned a long gun. We are not in a position to say, unless the chief, you want to swear it, whether this was a long gun or not. I think that there's been an account from the TA. There are multiple accounts about multiple things, including how this gunman approached the victims. Those are not details that advance the investigation. Why not? They don't advance the investigation because as we interview witnesses, we don't want them to learn facts from these press conferences. We want them to relay the facts that they have in their heads, including a person of interest. So we don't want a person of interest to shape what they're telling us based on what we know as expressed to you about those kinds of details, sir, that you asked. So we're being careful about the facts that we're sharing for that reason, so that when we talk to witnesses, what we're getting is their factual recitation. As you might imagine, in a situation where there is chaos, and look, people are ducking for cover as well they should have, you are going to get different accounts, and part of what's going on now is reconciling those accounts. And I don't know, Chief, if you want to weigh in more about the weapon, but I don't want anyone to leave this room thinking that this weapon was a long gun, because that would be a misperception from what I know.
Alex.
In the video released yesterday, it appears that the person in custody is going by.
What scholarships you may qualify for. Visit gcu.edu/myoffer.
However you book, first check Kayak to compare car rental sites and prices to find a great deal on exactly what you're looking for.
Does that mean that the dash cam in that cruiser was on and activated, and have police been able to recover anything useful from that video?
So that was a brown police cruiser, and I'm not sure if they have body cameras in their cruisers. I don't think they do.
Yes. Okay.
I don't want to
And then my next follow-up question would be, are you working with flood camera experts to try and recover anything from those cameras?
So as you know, we work with flock, we have LPRs in the city, and we're utilizing every resource we can. Yes, Alex.
Right. Colonel, you mentioned there is other evidence, but at this point, how much of this investigation turns on the public identifying Pinhead in those images, and are you discouraged or surprised that after a couple days of being out there, you haven't gotten to anything more concrete?
No, I think this is, like I said earlier, it's a very intense investigation, and I think it's going to take public assistance It's actually going to take, obviously, 21st century policing involving technology, but it's also going to take good old-fashioned police work, which is knocking on doors, retrieving evidence, going through yards, talking to witnesses. It's going to take all that and more practice.
And no one's discouraged. I mean, I've been in that command post. No one's discouraged. I mean, leads are coming in, people are underground, and no one's discouraged. Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been in the command post, as the colonel has, and no one's discouraged. I mean, I get when I'm not there, I get hourly reports from my own team, and there's an enormous amount of energy for people who've been working as hard as they have been. I'm really quite impressed by that, frankly, and there's no discouragement among people who understand that not every case is a case that can be solved quickly. In my view, they get solved. It's just a matter of time. In this case, we'll get solved too.
Would you have a message or appeal to the shooter or anybody who may think they know who they are who may be on the fence?
Well, look, certainly it would behoove everyone, including the shooter, to provide information to law enforcement, to the shooter to turn himself in. He will be caught, and it's just a matter of time before we catch him. And I believe that based on my experience, but also from watching the people in that command post and getting reports from where they're coming back out in the field. They know what they're doing, they're experienced, they're working hard. There's no lack of resources. Everyone's working really well together. And we're going to crack this case. And when we crack it, it's going to come open really quickly.
Thank you. For you, Mayor, have you spoken to local business owners about how much this is impacting their bottom line, especially during the holiday season, and any concerns that they might have about the situation?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Any concerns that they might have about the situation?
Yeah, I have. It's hard work being a small business owner, and this time of year is critical to them. There's a commercial district just off campus called Thayer Street. Those businesses are particularly struggling as both students went home early and some people are avoiding the area. Similarly, there's a couple other commercial districts nearby the area, which is Wickham Street, as has been discussed here tonight, and Wayland Square. The city's Department of Economic Development, in partnership with the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce, is reaching out to those business owners to look at assistance programs or otherwise try to support them to ensure that their businesses can stay healthy and vibrant through this.
Do you know when those might take effect?
Those conversations started yesterday, and so we're working with the various merchants associations to try to determine what sort of assistance might be most helpful, and when it's ready to announce, we will. Thanks. Please.
My question is for the Colonel. So looking at the feedback, there's no video so far of him before than there is after the shooting. Do you think the person in interest got the vehicle somewhere from this area, and are you going to go to license plate readers?
Absolutely, yeah. We're looking for that evidence, if there was any vehicles involved. And yes, you're right. He was there earlier, and so that's why we're looking at that as well. And definitely, we're using, I mentioned that earlier, the LPRs, the block, any cameras. That's why we're making a call out to the public to assist us with that. And so part of those resources that we're going to need, as the general stated, to make that apprehension.
Yeah, I have a question to follow up first to the Attorney General. Attorney General Dan Junick, NBC 10. You had said the other day that you released the person of interest because the DNA didn't match, which would assume that there was DNA of the person of interest in that room. Can you tell us what it was? And if he hasn't committed a crime before, how it makes it a little bit more difficult to
Yeah, so DNA, when it's entered into a nationwide system, can confirm the identity of a suspect or subject. And certainly the advantage here is that when we find a person of interest, and we can get a search warrant for what we call a buccal swab, we can compare that to a known quantum of evidence. That can rule people in, and obviously can rule people out. That's a powerful piece of evidence, but it's not the only evidence. And relatedly to the question about, do we need only the public? The public is going to really help us here by identifying this person, but at the same time, there are other leads coming in through other forms of electronic and other evidence that are taking multiple teams out in different directions. And we're able, through a variety of means, not just DNA evidence, to rule people in or rule people out. And it's a combination of really impressive work by, vector experts in various forms of modern law enforcement techniques.
Well, if I have a second question, Brown.
You could say Domino's new spicy chicken bacon ranch pizza is $9.99 when you mix and match. Or, you could just order it.
South Carolina Department of Probation, Parole, and Pardon Services is hiring.
Office hours are 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday.
So I asked this question, but I asked it to a lot of parents who are frustrated who've reached out to me, so please keep that in mind. And they want to know how a school with a 90 does not have cameras on one of the edge of the campus where this happening, not even in the front door, who's coming and going. Now they asked this question knowing that the shooter may have done whatever he wanted, but the cameras A would have deterred, or B captured a better look at them, and we wouldn't be here today 5 days out. I want you to explain that because there's a lot of parents who are wondering, where are you investing your money?
I appreciate that question, and I want to reiterate, as our president did, that supporting our students and communicating to parents, to our community about our support is of utmost importance. We have 1,200 cameras located throughout the campus. We don't publish the locations of cameras. That would give a map to somebody to evade detection on the campus. So that would be counterproductive to do that. There are cameras in this building, and as I answered the previous question, we have turned over all evidence that we are holding at ground to law enforcement and are cooperating fully.
So you're saying that there's a camera, you're saying there's cameras in the building. I was told yesterday there wasn't cameras in the building. The Attorney General said, old building, no cameras, attached to a new building with cameras.
I believe he said that there were 2 different phases of the building that might have 2 different levels of technology. Again, all video imagery has been turned over to law enforcement.
That doesn't make sense to people. Just want to say that.
Okay, I have a question for the chief and a question for the FBI. Hey, Chief.
How you doing, Amanda?
So, looking at this person of interest,
I'm still here,
from witness descriptions, it appears that this person had a genuine
Just off camera doing
possibly with that building as well. Have you, in questioning people, have you eliminated, questioned or eliminated any Brown employees, current, former, disgruntled, facing discipline, any type of complaints?
Yeah, at this point it's unknown to us. I think that the investigation is on. But it's unknown to us where this person works. It's unknown to us if he was an affiliate of Brown. That's all unknown to us. All we have is the image that we've been releasing and informed you all about it. And so we're hoping to get those answers eventually, who that person is or what the background is.
Okay, and a question to follow up to the FBI, please.
Oh, sorry.
I understand that the FBI has given tower dumps of cell phone data, and I'm not sure if this is also happening, but if you're also checking the MAC addresses of any phones related to any of the Wi-Fi at residences or at Brown University as well. If so, how long does it take to get that information? Have you really even received any preliminary information that is helping you narrow down any potential persons of interest?
I will say that I don't want to get into the specifics of the techniques that we use investigatively, but I will say that we are using every resource that we have to find this subject and bring it to justice.
But when it comes to cell phone data, how long does it take to get that information? Will you be getting weeks, months?
I will say that it varies as it relates to getting that type of data. I will say that everything that we're doing is getting expedited based on the gravity of what has happened here at Brown University.
Have you recovered any physical evidence during these recent searches and possibly including a gun magazine?
So we have done extensive searches both inside the location as well as outside. Yes, we have seized and found physical evidence.
And does that include a gun magazine?
We have found physical evidence.
Can you say where?
I'm not going to confirm. I'm sorry.
Colonel, the past couple of days we have zeroed in on this particular person of interest. Can you kind of help remind us about why you believe this is someone who possibly could be either the shooter or a suspect? You've been very careful not to say a suspect. You've said person of interest, that this is the only video. Can you explain
has taken us to that level to identify this individual as someone who was there immediately after, before a case in the area. There's enough for us to believe that's definitely a subject of interest based on descriptions, based on statements, and so that's the reason we're calling him a subject of interest, is to ensure that we have enough and to identify him to be able to take the next step.
A quick follow-up. You were clear not use gender with the person in proximity to the person of interest. You have been using male pronouns describing this person as a man. And for this particular person of interest, we can say for sure you believe this young lady were a man, the person of interest?
Correct.
At this point, and this is for the FBI, at this point, this person could be anywhere, right? Identity Hive runs right through the state. So how are you coordinating with other states to determine whether this person of interest could be elsewhere?
No, that's a great question. Through all of our field offices, we have 56 field offices throughout the United States, as well as LEGACs abroad. And so the information that we have, once it goes into our data systems, we are sharing that information real time with all of our FBI field offices and the partners as well. And so that is a way in which we're making sure that whether that subject has left the state or even left the country, that we are using our full reach of the federal arm to track that individual down.
And a follow-up real quick for one of you. I understand that Brown has 1,200 cameras. Why, and that those images have been handed over to the investigation, why have we not seen any of this footage? Wouldn't it help if the media or if the general public saw people walking through campus and just to get angles?
Yeah, I mean, my answer to that is footage of students running from the scene doesn't help advance identifying this person or this investigation.
Walking in? Him walking into a building?
No, not him. I'm talking about video footage of students that were not harmed, other students hearing shots, running through a different part of the building. We have video footage of that. That doesn't help us identify this individual.
With respect to Attorney General, I think we could all agree that maybe, within the 24 hours ahead of that time, there is a lot of footage that could be gone through on those 1,200 cameras that you say there are in the school. Why hasn't that just been released to the public?
Well, let me play devil's advocate. Would you like all of it?
Why not?
Well, because here's why. Because it doesn't tell us anything about who committed this crime yet. If we get a better image of who committed this crime, you'll have it. There is no effort to preclude the public, online investigators in the press, from getting to the result faster than we can. If you can identify this person faster than we can, have at it. But we are giving you the best evidence we can to identify this person. The FBI, with respect, cannot find a person we have not identified yet. The way we identify him is to focus on this person, exhaust our investigative resources to pull videotape so that we can get an image out there that the public may be able to identify. At the same time, exploiting other evidence to try to track this person in different ways, which has been going on for the last 72 hours. So, well, what does that look like? What that looks like is information comes in. It could come in from the tip line. The team runs it to ground. They rely on other evidence, the flock cameras that the colonel referenced, other electronic data that Amanda's referring to, and you can rule that person in or out. When that person's is ruled out, you move on to the next one. The way the public helps us now is to help us identify this person, okay? But that's not the exclusive way we're going at it. But it does not advance our investigation to have reams of data out there that don't help identify the shooter, and we're confident of that.
My follow-up question just to that was as well is, we speak a lot about the public helping as well, and that the FBI is involved. But 5 days is a person can get very far in 5 days. What other state police departments are helping you with this, and do you have any of the indication how far this person may have gotten in this time?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I got it. So pretty much it's a great point, and that's something that we're considering. Obviously, it could be anywhere. You're right. And I think the fact that we're all here in this room and we're providing the info and it's being spread out to this nation, I would hope I'm speaking to different chiefs. I've had the privilege to know a lot of them. We're exchanging info as we speak. We don't know, but we still don't know what the person is or who he is, right? And so we're going to continue to review, and then send out. And I just want to touch on that question because you do make a group on it. There's 1,200 cameras, right? How come we're not seeing it at all? But at the end of the day, We're looking at key evidence, key video evidence to send out. It makes no sense to re-victimize students who went through that. That's not my job, and that my responsibility is to ensure that people are safe. It's no different than I'm asking the public to provide me with video footage for weeks. I don't want to know what's going on in their homes for weeks. I want to know if they can see a piece of evidence that is going to be helpful for us to progress in this investigation.
What do you know about the level of public access there at the college? Is this more that somebody comes in like a shooter would be able to walk in, or is this a place you could?
Home updates to major repairs. Power. Heavy duty guaranteed. Finance the old way. Finance the ramp way.
Certainly. Thanks for that question. Brown is no different than most colleges and universities that during daytime hours, there's open access to academic spaces. So that was the case on the day of the event.
Question for Brown. There are some buildings on campus that have private or non-police security guards posted at the front entrance. Was there a security guard ever posted at the engineering building entrance? If so, were they there that day? What did they do? If not, why not?
So maybe I'll ask our chief of police to speak to that.
On that day, we did not have and do not have a security asset posted inside the building.
Is that atypical of a Saturday or that
I'm back.
building? How do you determine where security is posted? Is that under the purview of ground police?
That is typical for that academic space.
That there would not be a security personnel?
Correct.
As far as the investigation goes, any updates on the possible motive here? And for the mayor, while I have you, we're heading towards Christmas time. Obviously, the suspect can get lots of different places, not just on campus there. What is your message to people coming into this area, seeing family, who are concerned that this guy's still out?
The motive is unknown at this time.
We're a week away from Christmas now.
This only emphasizes the question that I think everyone's been asking, which is, are we safe in Providence right now? Which honestly is the hardest question that I keep getting asked. And whether it's the holidays or not, but with the holidays, we expect even more people to want to come home and celebrate with family and share the traditions that, are seared in all of our brains. Holidays with our parents and loved ones. We can't lock down the city indefinitely. We can't. And I know this city. I know that they are tough. I know that they are resilient. I know that they have faced scary times before. And so we are doing everything possible to provide extra law enforcement, extra visibility, things to reassure confidence at a scary time. And it is a scary time here in the city. That's true at Christmas time. That was true when this started on Sunday morning, the first morning after. And so we are doing everything possible, but obviously families are going to have a conversation about what's right and what's best. But they should know that their city government is doing everything they know how. And thanks to the help of our friends, the governor, Rhode Island State Police, our neighboring communities here in Rhode Island. For those of you who aren't from Rhode Island, this is a tight-knit place. And we have police officers from every corner of Rhode Island helping out in Providence right now. And so we are doing everything we can to reassure folks, provide comfort, particularly as we expect will be even busier a week from now. And that is the best honest answer that I can give to that very difficult question. Please.
This question is for the Colonel. I know you've been interviewing survivors, specifically survivors that were in that classroom where the shooting took place. Have any of those survivors described the person of interest as the shooter? And
Or have they given a physical description of the shooter that is similar to the person of interest that we can show?
That's correct, yes, they have. Yes, they have. Yes.
Can you tell us how many actionable tips you've received at this point?
Happy to see Steve Franklin.
Thanks very much. Hard question both for Colonel Perez and Doc, FBI. As you've expanded the area of appeal to people who may have cameras within a block area, is it fair to say that the calls of people with cameras have tailed off? Not all you can get?
Oh, we're still getting info, we're still getting calls, and we're doing a lot of knocking on doors, and it's been extremely helpful. So no, we're not done. We're going to continue to expand, and we get calls, and sometimes just knocking on doors alone is providing us that evidence.
And notwithstanding the fact the FBI is supposed for all of its field offices and so forth, is it fair to say that until and unless you get a picture of this guy stepping into a car,
Shop the holiday exclusive gear at Pokemon Center, the official Pokemon online.
this guy stepping into a car, you're not going to basically starting from square one. You don't really have a sense of who he is, where he's going, and how he's posing it.
I would say, as it relates to the FBI, as well as our partners here, any information that comes in, that has not tailed off at all. And I would say one thing that remains constant is we will always need the public's assistance in anything that we do. No matter what you guys may see on TV, we will always need the public's assistance. I say as it relates to that, any tip that comes in, the information that we get, we're able to aggregate that and push out, not only to make links with other FBI field offices, so in a way in which we can follow that lead all the way to ground. So the information that is coming in, we are pushing that out throughout our field offices, throughout our partnerships into that community, and then we get it back as well. That's helping us to cross off leads in which are not valid, and then to push on leads that are valid as well.
But without that, I don't know if it's a video or something that shows him stepping into the car and the plate or something along those lines, makes it your job better.
Yes, and I mean, I think we've mentioned this job is painstakingly difficult, but we've signed up to do it. As the AT mentioned, we have not lost any vigor or investigative rigor as we've gone forth into this. I will say that evidence that you're talking about sounds more like a smoking gun. Oftentimes, within my experience in the FBI, and I'm sure our partners as well, we get seeds. We only get seeds. And then we, through investigative, through that hard work, as the Colonel mentioned, we end up building that story. We put that puzzle together. That's what we do. That's what we signed up for. And we're committed to that, to this community, to help do that.
Thank you. Colonel, I want to follow up on one of my colleagues over there. You mentioned old school, and my colleague mentioned crossing people off the list, like basically making sure it's not that person, it's not that person. In homicide investigations, isn't it usually someone close to the victim? And if so, have you, and the person also seems to have narrowed ground somewhat, have you knocked off every...
I'm gonna go to this thing with Australia. Let's get it.
There is a comfortable cadence here, a familiar tempo.
Speed this up. Come on.
Gambling reform.
Should be starting here soon. Hopefully.
fighting anti-Semitism in our community, which will not be done in a week or a month. It is a long-term project for the government of New South Wales, working with civic leaders and the people of the state. Thirdly,
This is about Australia.
in New South Wales, with legislation brought into the New South Wales Parliament to make gun laws tougher in this state. I'm determined to bring in the toughest gun laws in Australia, and they'll be significantly tightened in New South Wales. And lastly, and importantly, and this has been reflected from civic leaders, community leaders across this state, bringing New South Wales together as a time of healing. I saw on the news some of the rabbis who gave some incredible heartfelt messages to the New South Wales community about coming together, showing love to one another, and getting through this through healing. And I thought that they were incredibly important messages right now in New South Wales, messages that we all need to hear. I'm very grateful for their intervention. I want to speak a little bit about blood donations too. I'm very happy to report that there has been 50,000 appointments to give blood in New South Wales, which I understand is a 5-fold increase. Say to the people of New South Wales, don't give up. If you haven't got an appointment, if you can't get in immediately, we require your blood. Be a blood donor in New South Wales. To put this in perspective, for somebody in trauma, they may need 100 individual donations to save their life. So this is an urgent priority. Don't give up if you're at the end of the line. Make an appointment. Do a wonderful bit of civic and public duty. I'm also here to report that small business help will be forthcoming in the next 24 hours, or we'll announce a program in the next 24 hours for small businesses in the Bondi area. We know there's huge disruption associated with this huge police investigation. There's been an impact on the local community, and part of our job after this investigation moves on is to ensure that we lift back up the Bondi community and we give people a place to come together and to return to a semblance of normal life. I want to make it clear, none of the shopkeepers, none of them complain about this at all, but we want to have their back as they open their doors in the coming days. There's lots to say. I just want to thank the public, in particular the Jewish community and interfaith leaders, for their warm support in the government's decision to put a menorah on the New South Wales Opera House to celebrate the second day of Hanukkah. This has been a tragic event for the Jewish community of New South Wales and Australia, but we're determined to meet it head on with a program and a set of reforms to ensure that we do everything we possibly can to ensure that it's not repeated. I'm going to pass over to the Prime Minister and then Commissioner Lanyon.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chris. My message to Jewish Australians is that we stand with you as a nation. We embrace you at what is a terrible time. These anti-Semitic terrorist attacks will not be successful with their objective, which is to divide us as a nation. We will continue to come together as a nation and to embrace each other. Earlier today, I met with Australian hero Ahmed Ahmed and his family. I met his mum and dad, who are visiting him here, as well as other relatives at St George Hospital. I thanked him for the lives that he helped to save, and I wished him all the very best with his surgery that he will undertake tomorrow. And I was able to also thank the health professionals, the doctors, nurses and staff at St George Hospital for providing support for him. Sunday's tragedy will have, of course, an immediate and lasting impact on many Australians, but the Jewish community here in Sydney and nationally, first responders and people in Bondi and Sydney, the impact will be particularly acute. The Australian government has made significant investments in mental health support, including expanding headspace and the creation of Medicare mental health centres. And I encourage all Australians affected by this tragedy to consider accessing the mental health support, including through Beyond Blue on 1300 22 4636, Lifeline on 131114, Kids Helpline on 1800 55 1800,
Headspace for children and young people and Medicare mental health centres are of course available to support people affected by this tragedy. Yesterday I convened National Cabinet where National Cabinet again spoke about the scourge of anti-Semitism and the commitment to stamp it out. We also agreed that Premier Menz and Premier Cook, as the incoming chair of the Council of Australian Federation, would work together to strengthen Australia's gun laws. The very nature of our gun laws means that they are only as strong as the weakest link, which is why we wanted to make sure that they followed Premier Menz's lead in committing to strengthening the gun laws that were of course created in the wake of the Port Arthur tragedy some 30 years ago, to give credit to the Howard government of that time and the bipartisan nature in which it was adopted. The consideration that will take place includes limiting the number of guns an individual can own, the type of guns that are legal, whether gun ownership should require Australian citizenship, and accelerating work on the National Firearms Register. This is an agreement that we reached through the National Cabinet at the end of 2023. We've provided over $160 million to do that. Included in that is over $100 million to states and territories. It is a fact that for some states and territories they still have paper records, and that obviously makes it impossible to check across boundaries in a quick and efficient manner. And the digitisation that is required, we've agreed to accelerate that. We will continue to engage, and this afternoon I'll have further meetings, another meeting of the National Security Committee, further meetings this afternoon. My government is absolutely committed to working with New South Wales, as well as working with community organisations, particularly Jewish community organisations at this time. I'll call upon the Commissioner Barrett to make some comments before we go to questions.
I watched the attack on you when you raised your hand and decided to walk away from the left.
Commissioner Lanyon first.
Thanks, Prime Minister. I'll start first. Just like to give an update. Our two parallel investigations are ongoing. We have a critical incident investigation which investigates the role of police in the matter, and certainly in terms of the death of the 50-year-old male and the injury to the 24-year-old male. Whilst that's continuing, we have a joint counter-terrorism operation running at the same time, and I welcome my fellow Commissioner, Commissioner Barrett, here from the AFP to talk about that this morning. There is still a crime scene in place in Campbell Parade and down around Bondi Beach. I anticipate that will stay in place until tomorrow afternoon, where it will be released to the public. We continue with forensic and ballistic examinations. I've made it really clear in previous conferences that this will be a thorough investigation. I apologise for the disruptions to pedestrians and traffic while that crime scene is in place, but I'm sure all of the community understands the importance of investigating this abhorrent matter. The Community Reception Centre has been open and activated at the Intercontinental Hotel at Coogee. That will provide health support to people who require it, mental health support, but also allows us to speak to those who are witnesses to this incident and treat them sensitively. The Public Information and Inquiry Centre is operating. That number is 1800 227 228. It's been really important to give our investigators in the Joint Counter-Terrorism space time to investigate this matter before releasing too much information. There has been reports in the news about our two offenders travelling to the Philippines last month. I can confirm that they did travel to the Philippines. The reasons why they went to the Philippines and the purpose of that and where they went when they were there is under investigation at the moment. I also confirm that the vehicle, which is registered to the younger male, contained IEDs, but I also confirm that it contained 2 homemade ISIS flags. We continue to work through the motive of this tragedy, and we'll continue to do so, and I think it's really important that our investigators continue to be given time to do that. This is a very complex investigation and important that we do it thoroughly. Operation Shelter ramped up yesterday. We have static patrols or static guards at a range of locations around the eastern suburbs, particularly Jewish places of worship and other important locations to the Jewish community. In addition to that, we have mobile patrols, and I want to make it very clear to the Jewish community, as we did to their leaders yesterday, that the New South Wales Police stands right beside you. We are here to keep you safe. I want the community to feel safe and be able to go around their way of life. New South Wales Police will maintain a significant response in Operation Shelter to ensure that the community can go about their normal way of life. I would like to correct a record. I have been indicating that Sajid Akram, the 50-year-old male, has held a firearms licence since 2015. Mr Akram applied for that licence on the 8th of October 2015, and it was recommended that it be issued in November 2015. I'm advised that he did not get a photo taken as required by that licence, and the application lapsed in 2016. A second Category AB licence was applied for Mr Akram in 2020. That licence was recommended for issue and issued in 2023. I think it's important that the transparent nature of the investigation provides that change. The initial information had been that it had been issued in 2015, and I think it's important to give that detail. He was licensed to hold a Category AB licence, and the firearms that we have seized were attached to that licence appropriately. I'll hand over now to Commissioner Barrett, but happy to take some questions later.
Good afternoon. Last night with Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke, I had the chance to lay a wreath at Bondi Beach after immediately returning from an overseas work matter. Between the time of this attack and until I landed back in Australia, I have had regular contact with the Prime Minister, with Minister Burke, with New South Wales Police Commissioner Lanyon, and with the AFP's Counter-Terrorism and Special Investigations Command, as well as senior Jewish leaders. These are my first public comments on the terrorist attack since I have returned to Australia, and I want to describe this attack in my own words so there is no confusion and no ambiguity about the AFP's position. This was a barbaric attack against Jewish Australians. On Sunday, Jewish Australians were hunted down in broad daylight at an iconic Australian beach. The suspected murderers, callous in how they allegedly coordinated their attack, appear to have had no regard for the age or ableness of their victims. It appears the alleged killers were interested only in a quest for a death tally. Like October 7, 2023, we will not forget how that shocking attack forced Jews around the world to relive modern-day terror that should have been consigned to the history books decades ago. In Australia, the AFP will never forget the date of December 14 and what it means for a community that deserves to live in peace and harmony. It is understandable and right that the community wants answers, and it is appropriate that the AFP and New South Wales Police provide this information, not only to provide answers to a community that is in shock and grieving, but also to protect how we live together safely in multicultural Australia, including calling out misinformation that could fuel retribution-type incidents. Because of these factors, we will provide information that does not impact on our investigation, noting that one alleged offender remains in hospital and is facing significant charges. Early indications point to a terrorist attack inspired by Islamic State, allegedly committed by a father and son. There is no evidence to suggest other individuals were involved in this attack. However, we caution that this could change given it is early in our investigation. Alleged evidence has provided investigators with a swathe of information that has enabled them to make this initial assessment about the alleged individuals involved and their motivations. These are the alleged actions of those who have aligned themselves with a terrorist organisation, not a religion. The New South Wales Joint Counter-Terrorism Team, which includes the AFP, New South Wales Police, ASIO, and the New South Wales Crime Commission, is continuing to review the significant material seized during search warrants, and we will not provide further details of that material today for obvious reasons. The AFP and New South Wales Police have a responsibility to keep the community safe. And I want to thank Commissioner Lanyon for his steel-like leadership during this time, and also acknowledge the brave men and women of New South Wales Police who have showed courage, amazing courage, in the face of cowards. Now, we understand words and information are important for context and for comfort. However, we are very much focused on action, including conducting a thorough investigation. This investigation will be highly visible, precise, and it will operate around the clock. The New South Wales Joint Counter-Terrorism Team investigation will leverage all unique powers, capabilities, and international networks.
Style and substance. In the GMC.
Leverage all unique powers, capabilities, and international networks. Thank you.
Well, Commissioners, where and with whom did the ACRAMs carry out their militant training in the Philippines, and when did Australian authorities first have intelligence about that training?
I think we've been fairly clear that the reason that the ACRAMs travelled to the Philippines, where they went, is unknown at this stage and subject to the investigation.
Do you believe that any of their associates had prior knowledge of the attack?
Sorry, can you just
Do you
repeat?
believe that any of their associates had prior knowledge of the attack?
That's obviously part of the investigation. We've been fairly clear that we believe that there were 2 people involved in this cowardly attack. We continue to investigate the matter thoroughly to determine if there's anyone else involved.
Did the trip to the Philippines trigger any security alert in Australia? And if not, was that an intelligence failure?
Not that I'm aware of, and I don't believe it was an intelligence failure at all. We're talking about something that's retrospective, post what is an horrific crime. We've indicated this will be a thorough investigation. Both New South Wales Police and the AFP are committed to that. We are finding information post the event.
But given Naveed Akram's long-standing ties to extremists in Australia, why did his father receive a firearms licence, and why were they allowed to travel overseas in this way?
The issue of the firearms licence is something that I've addressed previously, and something that is subject of investigation. The Firearms Act has certain requirements. Mr. Akram was entitled to make an application. The information that was available at the time was used to assess that information, and a licence was issued.
Commissioner, one night survivor, Shmulik Screwery, told the 7 Network this morning he saw 4 police officers at the scene in Bondi, none of them fired a weapon, and he was saying he didn't understand why he's an Israeli national. So Mr. Screwery, what do you say to him that the police didn't do their job and fire back at that gunman?
I can't comment in relation to that actual report. What I'll say is that I'm incredibly proud of our police officers. They were confronted by 2 men armed with long arms. Our police at the scene were armed with pistols.
That is regarding the timeline of that. Can you just outline when did the first police officer arrive at the scene?
I don't have that timeline in front of me. That's obviously part of the investigation. I've been really clear. Both the critical incident investigation and the JC2T investigation will be thorough.
I'm going to go ahead and end it here. If there's any more updates, I'll come back tomorrow. With that being said, like, share, subscribe. I'll see y'all later. Peace.